Welcome to CEOs Solve the Darndest Things, a video and podcast series of interviews with CEOs, hosted by the partners of the Resolve firm.
Welcome to CEOs Solve the Darndest Things. Today we have Lisa Crouse from Canvas Meetings with us. Lisa, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Sharon, for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. So tell me a little bit about your company and maybe even a little bit how you got into the business.
Thanks, Sharon. We are an entrepreneurial, innovative meeting planning company. We work with organizations of all types, and we just come alongside them and we help them plan their logistics from finding a great location to registration to food and beverage logistics to video and AV and everything that surrounds a meeting. So we get to come alongside them and take the logistics and make them more successful, and they get to focus on what their real business is. So It's a lot of fun, yeah.
That's awesome. And that's probably a relief because they can take that task off their plate, like you said, focus on what they do best.
And it's so much fun to watch that transition of let them allow us to do that and make them look good. But it's interesting when you call me to do this. You know, I'd been in the business for a long time, was just a business partner. So when this came up, we decided to rebrand kind of a year ago and start a whole new company and make it more innovative in the meeting planning industry, and hired some millennials to really get the energy going, and it's been a lot of fun. So when you asked me to do this, I was like, wow, okay, this is a pretty exciting time to be talking about what we're doing. So thank you.
That's awesome. How did you get into this field? What made you decide you were going to go in the meeting planning business?
To go back to that, I started in the hotel business just a long time ago, and I love the people. I love making them successful and planning their events, and so I just kind of really, I think, evolved into that. And then I met a great partner. She and I just had a great business for a long time, but then we decided to do something a little bit different. My daughter said, hey, I want to come work with you. And I was like, whoa, okay, this could be interesting. And wow, I do have to say that I think my faith came into play because God really orchestrated a lot of this and had a lot of trust to really see what was next. And so just started really growing the company. That's kind of where we are right now, learning how to really be a CEO, and I've just really been a business owner.
That's awesome. And I know you have had a tremendous amount of growth in a very short amount of time. Last year was a big growth year for you.
It was.
So tell us a little bit about what you faced. What conundrums did you face with that? Because other business owners walk into the same issues where they all of a sudden are facing rapid growth. And what things did you face?
Well, I love that the Resolve firm uses that word because I didn't use it very much. And I thought, wow, that's exactly what last year was. It was a bunch of conundrums all at one time. And so I love really thinking about that. We had a great successful year. We hired a director of marketing. She started selling. My daughter was handling all the logistics. Next thing, we have so much business and you don't have enough people to take care of that business. And so I think that was my first big aha moment as a CEO and making some pretty tough choices. We thought, do we hire people, or do we risk getting it done with a small crew and maybe lose business? And that was, and so we started interviewing, and then we found out that was going to take a little bit longer than we had hoped. Yep. And how do you get the right people? So I guess our first conundrum was we had to hire people, and we'd never really hired people before. And so how do we get the right people? And I was super sensitive to that because I'm a people person and I love our clients. I love what we do. And so I was like, wow, how do we get the right people on the bus? And I've just seen that through a lot of other CEOs struggling. I think we all do to find the right people. Right. So that was the first thing. How do we get the right people? And then the second thing, well, how do we train them fast enough that they can work the next day?
Oh, yes.
And so that was the second thing. And then I think also, because before that we'd use independent contractors to come in and just work alongside us, but we really felt like we had a great company culture. Even though we were small, we wanted full-time people. We wanted to train them to be and really live and breathe our culture, which we'll talk about later with our values and whatnot. But that was important to me and to our small team. So I think that was the big one, is hiring and that process of learning how to find those people.
So what did you do that you felt like worked well? If you look back on it and you say, hey, that worked well, or maybe something that didn't work well, what lessons did you learn in that process that you would share with?
Yeah, that's a great question because we're still learning those lessons.
No,
But
it's a forever learning lesson.
it is. But I do feel like, I saw a little bit of wise counsel, and I talked to a lot of people, and we did the DISC test in the beginning to kind of just look at their strengths and their weaknesses. A lot of great tests out there. But one of my favorites, Sharon, are you familiar with the Enneagram?
Oh, yes.
Are you?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to tell you what number you are.
We won't tell that on the camera.
Oh, okay, fine. Anyway, but the Enneagram, for people that don't know about it, it's just it's more of a personality test that talks about the core of what motivates people and who they are as human beings. And I think the more we understand our team and we treat them like real people and care about them and we invest in them, they're going to go out there and do that to our clients. So when I started reading about that, I fell in love with the core of it's what motivates people.
Right.
So we did the Enneagram. That helped a lot. And then we just kind of really dove into what that and big conversations about that. So that helped a bunch.
Lisa, you mentioned a lot of great things that you did in hiring and making things work. What would you share with those listening that maybe didn't work or you would do over again?
Wow. It's a great question, Sharon. I think the big lesson was we wanted experienced meeting planners, and we've got them. Some more experienced than others, which is good. But I think we thought because they had this great experience, we didn't have to train them. I mean, we knew eventually, but so I think when they came on board, they looked to us for a little more leadership and training. We didn't have all of our processes, in place. We knew that was important, but we'd all been doing everything. So to make it all work. So we wanted better processes. So we weren't ready to kind of lay them out. So I think that was our biggest learning curve. We had to put them to work. We thought they're great experience, which was good. They did a good job, but we realized to keep that culture we wanted and that passion that we had to really get our processes together to give them the confidence of what they're doing and then really train them. And since we've started to do a lot of that, it's just been a game changer. We see the investment they're making into the company. We see their passion, their self-confidence. And we also admit we learned a lot.
That's great. I think that's a good lesson because even if somebody comes in with experience, they need your company's culture, your company's processes in place. I think that's a great learning and sharing for folks.
Well, and Sharon, also you realize that some come from corporate backgrounds, some come from association background, some maybe have worked remote, some. So they're coming from all different kind of environments with different kinds of CEOs. And so I think our expectation, they're going to come in and just do a great job for us. They are doing a great job. But we all need to, have guidance, have training. And so I think that was a big lesson for us. And we're still learning, but I feel like, man, we're making a lot of progress and it's been a lot of fun to be a part of that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
Thanks.
I know we talked the other day about your remote employees. I think that's interesting. You're doing some unique things that I think others can learn from with your remote employees. Just give us a snippet of what you do with your remote employees to keep them engaged.
Thanks, and that was another, conundrum. Like we had these people that came from corporate environments, and we had this small team. We think this is great and this is easy, and they're like, "Wow, it sounded really good. But working remote, it's tough.
Isolating, could be
It's very isolating. We found that. So as hard as we're working to get to know them as people, we found that some felt like they were on like an island, being remote. Even though we love the fact you could dress casual and do all these fun things. So what we did is we had a lot of conversations about it. What's working, what's not. I do one-on-one calls every week, and they're video calls.
That's great.
So that we have this personal touch. We do one simple thing, which is I got from Google, and they do it well. So I'm like, heck yeah, it works for them. It's got to work for us. But we asked them what's one thing they can focus on that's not work related that will help them be better at who they are. And so I think that lets me know the core, maybe what they're dealing with outside of work and what they want to share. So we talk about that on my one-on-one calls, which just myself and them. And then we do digital potluck. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, from you, I love it. I love it.
The first time. Well, one of our team members came up with that. And I thought, wow, I'm not sure what it is, but let's do it. And we just all say, okay, once a month, we say 12 o'clock. And if you can stay from 12 to 1, but if not, try to commit a half an hour. We all bring our food. We're all on video, Google Hangout. And we just keep it non-work related. We chat, we share what we're eating. And that's, I think, made them feel more part of a team. We don't have a water fountain to hang out, drink water, grab coffee. So we're very sensitive to
I
talking
love
about
that. I love that idea.
Yeah.
So hopefully others will take that and run with it, because that's a time where you can spend with each other, even though it's via video, but catch up on what's going on with their day-to-day lives outside of work. So that's awesome.
Been fun. I think they want to be people first.
Right.
They want to be employees and team members. So it's been fun. We've gotten some good recipes and just felt like we are more connected.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that really leads into one of the conundrums you told me about, was how do you keep the company culture as you grow? A lot of businesses face that. You want to keep what you felt like was working, but all of a sudden you're bringing on a lot of new people. So what other things did you do to feel like you could keep that culture that you had?
Well, Sharon, it's a great question. I wish I had some easy answers because we're still working real hard at that. But I know a lot of companies talk about their core purpose and their core values, but I really took that as being extremely important in the beginning of who we are. And I think if I can share with you, our values are things they can use at work, but they're also things they could use personally. And so I think that made us feel like a smaller, more intimate team, because they weren't these big mission statements that no one ever talks about. So we have fun. So that's kind of hard. I mean, if you're not having fun, we're going to know it. And we're going to, that's not really part of our culture. It doesn't mean we don't get serious and have, some tough situations. But so we have fun. We're curious learners. So we're always asking, okay, what new technology's out there? We have to keep up with the industry. We're brave and we take risk. So we have to kind of watch that one sometimes. But it's fun. We want them to have this sense of independence to make some decisions, and we'll back them up. We want to make sure they feel okay making mistakes. And I know I mentioned to you Brene Brown, who I love, but she taught me to be vulnerable, and I think that's super important. If I'm vulnerable, they are, and they feel safe. And then we're dedicating to serving our clients.
That's great.
So I guess when we talk about those, back to your answer, your question about to get an answer, we don't just put those on a big sign. We have them in our performance review, so they know we're going to ask them, what have you been doing to have fun? What have you been doing to be a curious learner? And so they know that we take that to heart.
That's awesome.
So I think we really we have that in our standard operating procedures. Those can be pretty boring. So we try to incorporate, our values into those. So maybe that's a helpful way that other people can try to live those instead of read them.
That's great stuff, Lisa. That good learnings that people hopefully will take away some things they can go implement.
I hope so. You asked me a great question, and we were talking the other day, and you said, which I love. So you asked me, why do I show up to work? What
excites you? What excites you about driving in?
Well, and I think that's such a great question, because I think sometimes as CEOs, that was like such an overwhelming statement of what that meant and the expectations that came along with it. And I think really it comes down to, I need to stay passionate about showing up to work. And so when you asked me that, I thought, it's the people. And I think when we as CEOs lose that, and we're just budget and bottom line, which last year when we were going through all those conundrums of how do we hire, how are we going to afford to keep these people, how do we train them, I cared most about a lot of those number things, and budgets were pretty tense. But I think when you asked me about that, it was we have great clients and they're doing great work. And so when we show up and we get to come alongside them and do great work, they're changing lives. We're doing logistics, but it makes us feel a part of changing lives. Yeah. And then our team members, that watching them engage and be curious and learn and have fun. So that keeps me excited more than budgets and spreadsheets and processes like I know that we talked about, or things that I continue to need to grow and work on. But thanks for asking me that.
That's great. Let's switch gears a little bit. Those were great learnings. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about the industry. What do you see coming down the pike in your industry that's different challenges or things that would be good to share?
You know, the industry, the hotel industry is great right now, actually. Business is good. So that's a good thing for the economy, but it can make it sometimes hard for us negotiating for our clients. We treasure that we have great partners, and we, once again, want to keep this deep relationship with our partners and know them. And so one of my maybe concerns is that some of these hotel companies get so big, we lose that personal connection of who we're working with. And so that is one thing that we struggle with in the big companies, and we search out almost smaller companies, independent. So that's one area to keep those relationships strong when business is good, and sometimes they don't really need us. The other thing is our clients push us to find great and unique locations. And so as you know, in the hotel business, there's a lot of typical hotels, and they're all great and they're renovating, but they're having to step up their unique experiences so that they can get the business that these clients want. They don't want regular meeting rooms. They want more unique environments to engage their people so they have experiences.
Yes, that was interesting. You told me the other day about the fact that it's really switched from just meetings and logistics to these companies wanting to create a real experience.
Yes.
So that was an interesting insight to me that you shared.
It is, and it's a lot harder for us, but we love that because it pushes us to be, to challenge our team to come up with, instead of like a normal meeting room with rounds, could we use, sofas and lounge chairs? Could part be outside? Could we have the new thing is the unconference? So it's not even a conference.
Oh, what does that mean?
Not really sure yet. Kind of logistics team yet, but it's thinking about a meeting a different format. So when people that are coming to the meetings, they want to be engaged. They want to be a part of the meeting. They just don't want a speaker to talk to them. So they want to make a contribution, and they want to leave their lives have been changed a little bit. So that's makes us work harder, which is fun, pushes us out of the box to push our partners to get out of the box to what can they offer our team. So those are two things that I think the industry is still at work trying to figure out.
That's interesting. What do you see happening with your customers? Are they facing conundrums, challenges that are different or that are challenging for you to solve?
Couple of things that I would say. One is that, they come to us to create that experience. So there again, they want something unique, and how are they doing that over and over again? So that creative element is always front and center for us. Also, a subject that I know we mentioned that people don't talk about, there's a lot of buzz out there, but a lot of the organizations we're working with do really great work. They're educational. They get grant money to change lives, like I mentioned. So they have done a lot of work in the diversity and inclusion area. And so they have pushed us to understand, what does that really mean? And how do we share that passion with them? And how do we also go out and find other vendors that they're going to pay money and want to hire that either understand that passion or are wanting to learn? So that's been a real push for us, Sharon, to understand what does that look like? And that has helped our company culture. I think I mentioned we hired a team to come in and do some training. And so that's, I think, set us apart as a meeting planning company, because we are now asking questions we never asked before. We're learning the language to feel more, to give people more of that inclusive feeling and to hire in a more diverse way.
Right. So these companies that are focused on diversity inclusion, are they doing training for other organizations?
They are, but they're just trying to make sure there's a representation of a diverse group of people.
So they probably expect that type of meeting environment then.
They
if
do.
That's what they're pushing and helping folks learn about. So do you get your vendors? How does that work?
Yes, and that's a great question. Like I said, back for the hotels. I mean, if you show up and everybody looks just like you and acts just like you don't really, doesn't, and you're the odd man out, you're not really comfortable. And so it's, you want to show up to a hotel that has a very diverse staff. And does that make sense? And then,
yes.
So what we've done though, so we've gone to vendors because they've asked us if they're going to pay their money to certain people, they like to at least have the chance to understand if they've got any of those initiatives in place.
Right, makes sense.
So what we've started doing is asking some key questions that we got some training on, a nice way to ask and to find out. And then we've been actually putting that in Salesforce. And so now when a client calls and says, I need a photographer, we can look at what their initiatives are and at least give them some honest feedback. And
That's awesome.
we track it and we talk about it, and we're still learning so much about that area.
That was a great customer conundrum you shared. Are there any others that your customers are facing?
Sharon, one I'd probably want to talk about, because I know every CEO struggles with that in getting their business, is a lot of our clients really need us and they want us, but their budgets are tough and they're concerned, like we were, when do they hire a firm that's professional that can help them, or how long do they wait? And so we've watched that. It's been fun because we've learned to listen fast and speak slow, so we can learn, okay, what do they really need? How can our expertise really come alongside them? And so I think we can save them money and we can work that budget if they'll just give us a chance to talk through their concerns. But that's probably a big thing. And we're very sensitive to their budgets. They're doing great work. We want to make sure that we do great work managing those budgets. Right. So that's one that we've been challenging, but it's been fun to watch that come together. And then I think once they do use us, they realize that the value is there. I think you've seen that in all the help you've done with the CEOs at the Resolve firm. So it's been good.
That's great. Great. Thank you, Lisa. This has been great. I've enjoyed learning things from you, and I appreciate you coming today.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks.